David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. A perk of producing this channel is that it has provided me with the opportunity to take a look at some very unique and interesting pens, which I would have not otherwise had a chance to check out. Today, I have for you one of those pens. It's a new limited edition offering from Montegrappa, and that is the Montegrappa Hemingway. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Montegrappa Hemingway, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Kenro Industries, the U.S. distributor for Montegrappa, for providing this pen on loan for review. Ernest Hemingway was an American journalist and novelist and sportsman. He was an adventurous, larger-than-life personality who wrote some of the most classic American novels of the 1920s and 30s and 40s, and has inspired a number of fountain pens. The latest being this offering from Montegrappa. During World War I, Hemingway was stationed near the Montegrappa factory in Italy, and it's been said that he was partial to Montegrappas, especially the Elmo. The pen arrives in one of the cooler boxes I've seen in a while. There is this cardboard outer box, and then inside we have a box in the shape of a notebook, complete with an elastic closure. The sides of the box are even ridged to look like pages. When you open the box, you're presented with a few things. Hemingway's initials on the left-hand side, and a nice logoed polishing cloth is included as well. The use and care guide is very cool. It's printed like a map. I like when a company produces unique documentation for limited edition pens. It just adds to the overall theme of this offering. They also include a number of photographs of Hemingway, Africa, as well as the pen itself, which is contained within this branded sleeve. And inside the sleeve, we have the pen. This is the Montegrappa Hemingway. I've also seen it marketed as Hemingway the Adventurer. This pen is made from sterling silver, similar to a design of a previous Hemingway offering from Montegrappa called Hemingway the Traveler, which was adorned in travel-related images. This model here, the Adventurer, has an African-type safari theme. Hemingway made 2 trips to Africa. In 1933, he traveled to Kenya for a hunting safari and came home so inspired that he used his experiences for several short stories and a novel, The Green Hills of Africa. In 1954, he and his wife at the time made a second trip to the continent, touring the Belgian Congo and Kenya and Rwanda. And while flying over Uganda, their airplane clipped a telegraph wire and is said to have plunged into the crocodile-infested shores of the Nile River. They survived the crash and had to camp out near the wreckage waiting to be rescued. And while they waited, there were false reports of their death, which made world headlines. They were eventually rescued, but as bad luck would have it, when they climbed into a second airplane, that airplane crashed as well on the airstrip. While his time in Africa made an indelible mark, it also left him with some permanent health issues, which many people have believed contributed to his passing 6 years later. Let's take a closer look at this pen. The top of the cap is adorned with the outline of the continent of Africa. Contained within is a stylized elephant head. Encircling the finial is a representation of Hemingway's signature with a stone wall background. There's a medium-sized step up to the barrel, which begins with the sterling silver maker marks. Then we have the clip. It's hinged and slightly bowed. The top of the clip is engraved with a car, the kind you'd see on an African safari, maybe a Land Rover. And then we have the cap. It's straight, and it contains images of animals native to Africa. There is a lion, a water buffalo, there's an elephant, a rhino, and some large cat. Maybe that's a leopard or a cheetah, I'm not sure. Then there is a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which begins with the Montegrappa name encircled with a diamond pattern. The barrel contains images of additional animals. The body of this pen has been micro-milled and polished. It's a bit of a different look than the lost wax casting process used for many of the high-end Montegrappa models. Up close, I'm not a huge fan of the lines that you see on the animals, but these pictures are with an extreme macro lens. With the naked eye, these lines just give the animals a bit of depth and texture, and they actually look very nice in person. There is a tiered step down to the end of the barrel, which houses the piston knob. On the knob is a depiction of some additional animals in a safari-esque scene. On the very end of the piston knob, it has the limited edition number for this pen. The cap twists off. The threads are very short, so the cap is removed with about 1/4 of a turn, which is nice. And underneath, we have this custom 18-karat gold nib with the African elephant logo on it like the top of the cap. There's an ink blob on the nib in this picture, so that's not the eye of the elephant. I like when limited edition pens have unique nibs as well. It kind of makes me feel like a little more effort went into the overall design. This nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, double broad, and a 1.1 stub. They also offer a 14-karat gold flex nib in extra fine and fine. And here's a look at the ebonite feed. I mentioned this a couple of times. This is a limited edition pen. It is an edition of 300. There will be 100 available with the 18-karat gold nib and 200 with the 14-karat flex nib. The section is straight. It begins with a silver band with another set of maker's marks and transitions into what Montegrappa calls bamboo black celluloid. It's an interesting material. It's black with golden green accents. While I'm sure that the patterning on this material will vary from pen to pen, on this specific pen, I like that the most colorful portion of the barrel is visible right between my fingers when I grip the pen. Even though this is a very heavy pen, being made out of silver will tend to add to the weight. I do find it is comfortable in the hand and easy to write with. It's plenty long enough to use unposted. The cap does twist to post. Now, I typically don't care for twist to post pens, but there are a few things about this setup that I don't mind. This cap, as the barrel, is hefty. So while the cap does post securely, I find that it significantly backweights this pen, throwing off the balance. So I wouldn't recommend using this pen unposted. When posting, you can do so in half a rotation, which is nice. But since the vast majority of folks will not be posting this pen, what I appreciate most is the narrow threads. You really don't notice them. They blend in well with the transition between the barrel and the piston knob. Speaking of the piston knob, this is a piston filler. I won't twist the knob now because the pen is inked, but it does have a ratcheting mechanism that I find very satisfying to use. The Montegrappa Hemingway The Adventurer is not an inexpensive pen. I think by now you would have guessed that. It retails for $39.95, so just under $4,000. Now, that's a hefty price for a pen. When you are dealing with pens in this price range, the question of is it worth the price is very subjective. This is a high-quality pen. There's nothing about it which feels cheap. It's very solid and very well built. There is a difference between weight just for the sake of being heavy and a weight that feels more substantive. And that's what I feel about this pen. If you are in the market for a high-end pen, then the Hemingway is worth checking out. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Montegrappa Hemingway The Adventurer. First of all, here it is with another Montegrappa. This is the Elmo. This is the Chrysiocolla that was available through Goulet Pens. I really like the green material on here. And then in regard to a couple of Pelicans, I find it very similar in size to the Pelikan M1000, as well as the M800. It's about the girth of the 1000 and about the length of the 800. This is actually an 805. In regard to some other pens, here it is with a Pilot 845, a Mont Blanc 149, and then finally here it is with a Sailor King of Pen in ebonite. In regard to uncapped comparisons, Here it is with the Sailor King of Pen in Ebonite, the Mont Blanc 149, and finally the Pelikan M1000. So here we go with the writing sample for the Montegrappa Hemingway The Adventurer. And this is a medium 18 karat gold nib. And the ink that I'm using today is Montegrappa Blue. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a lighter, not too heavily saturated blue, something very similar to like Lamy blue or the Faber-Castell Royal blue. This is what the bottle looks like. It's a nice sized bottle. I like the opening on top. It's very sturdy. For the second review in a row, right before the review, I dropped this ink bottle on a hardwood floor and it did not get damaged. So I think I'm living dangerously, but these are rather solid bottles. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I do very much care for Montegrappa's gold nibs. This 18 karat gold nib is very pleasant. You can get a decent amount of flex out of it. And in regard to ink flow, this is rather dry ink, but you can get a decent amount of ink flow out of here. In regard to reverse writing, it is a little scratchy, but it does lay down a very clean, extra fine line. In regard to some fast writing, the ebonite feed has no issues in keeping up. So there we have the Montegrappa Hemingway The Adventurer. I find this to be an interesting pen. For Montegrappa, for their higher end pens, it's a little more on the subdued side and subtle compared to a lot of the over-the-top pens that they normally have. And so I think it is a welcome diversion from that. And if you are in the market, like I said, for a high-end pen, then this is something definitely to consider. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.